In this video, I'm going to tell you how I found my two previous jobs as a blockchain developer.
This video is sponsored by EatTheBlocks Pro, a weekly screencast for Ethereum and Solidity smart contract developer. If you want to get access to all the source code of all my tutorials, go to the website and click on Enroll Now in order to create a free account.
So I know that you'll find a couple of videos and a couple of articles on this topic on the internet, but the thing is, I watch a couple of this and a lot of people just talk about things they don't know, like they give advice even though they didn't really find job as a blockchain developer. So you gotta be really careful when you try to find that kind of advice. As it regards me, as I told you, I find two jobs as a blockchain developer, so I believe my advice should be somewhat valuable. So let's start by the beginning. So in 2016, that's when I first discovered blockchain and Ethereum. I found a link on the DAO hack on Hacker News, and so I started to read everything I could about blockchain and Ethereum, and that was great. And then what happened is, so I wanted to find my first gig as a blockchain developer. So I started to do some research how I could find my first job. And one day I had this idea. I went to a meetup. About Ethereum, and that was interesting. And at the end of the presentation, someone came talk to me and asked me a very simple question. Say, hey, are you a developer? And I was like, yeah, I'm a developer. Are you available for work now? I'm like, yeah, I'm available for work now. Do you know how to develop on C++? And I said, oh no, I'm sorry, I'm a web guy, I know nothing about low-level stuff, C++. And the guy said, oh, okay, that's fine. I was like, oh, really? So he said, yeah, like, we need you to fork Monero. I was like, what? Like, forking a cryptocurrency is something super difficult. And especially with a low-level language, I was like, wow, like, I mean, that sounds interesting, but I'm not sure I can do it. Anyway, I said, yes, we can talk about it. And so he said, sure. So tomorrow, come to my office and I'll introduce you to my partner. So I went to meet him at his office, and so we talked for like 30 minutes. Everything went well. And these two guys decided to hire me basically, and they just asked me how much I wanted. I told them I'm a hourly rate, and they were like, sure, no discussion. So they were doing the ICO, so they were getting a lot of money. So they didn't really care about like negotiating with developer. It just paid like that. So that was wow. Okay. So I worked for these guys for about 4 months. So I did what they wanted. So I forked their coin, but that was really difficult, but also very interesting. And by the way, if you're a web guy and you ever wonder what's the interest of a package manager like NPM, go do some C++ for a couple of weeks. And when there is absolutely no package manager, and every time you want to find some dependencies, then you have to go yourself on GitHub, like copy paste some code, and hopefully it will work. Like with NPM, it's just like way better. Anyway, this is just a parenthesis. So I got this job, but it only lasted 4 months. And also in the meantime, it's about the same time when I started EatTheBlocks in 2017. So I started to send CV right and left, and since I also started to post my videos of EatTheBlocks on LinkedIn, then somebody, actually a couple of people started to contact me. So that was in late 2017 because I had the correct keywords in my LinkedIn. So the volume of searches where I appear in LinkedIn was like super high. I think it was something like 2,000 searches a week or something. It was during the ICO boom, so everybody was really crazy about blockchain at the time. So I received a couple of email via LinkedIn of people who wanted to work with me, and one of these email was with my ex company. So that was a new project. So at that time they had no employee, but they were looking at doing the ICO and doing the whole blockchain thing. So I wasn't really sure at that time because I wanted to find a bigger company which is already established. I didn't want to take too much risk, but I set up a meeting with these guys. I went to meet them at a coffee shop, and it was really laid back. They seems to be really cool and the project interesting. So in the end, I took their offer. But the problem is I didn't really want to work in an office. So I told them that if they wanted, I could work at the office just for the first few months, but after they would have to agree to let me work remotely. And they accepted. So I went to work with them a couple of months. The collaboration was great. After that, we did our ICO, we raised a lot of money, and we hired a lot of developers. At some point, we were something like 10 developers. And yeah, this is basically how I find my second crypto job. So what are the lessons that you can learn for yourself? So there are a couple of things. So first, you need to project the knowledge and the interest you have. Like if you're just doing some research on your own, but nobody knows, then it doesn't matter that you're the best expert in the world. Other people needs to know. So that means, for example, doing some project on GitHub, writing some blog, YouTube channel like I'm doing. I'm not sure I would recommend it because that's really a high investment. To do these videos really take a lot of time. So you'll have more bang on your buck if you write some article on Medium, for example. Contributing to project on GitHub. So, okay, well, contributing to an existing project is a little bit harder, but what you can do if you're just getting started is you just create your own project, so you don't need to understand the logic of someone else. That's a little bit easier. What else I can tell you? Yeah, so going to meetup is really huge. Like meeting people in person, you create some sort of relationship that are much more difficult to create when you just online sending CVs. So that's a huge one. Also, if you can't afford it, go check out the couple of conferences about crypto this year, especially the one that are targeted at developer. So personally, I'm going to TruffleCon at Seattle in August this year. It's not very expensive compared to other conferences, so if you can afford to fly there, it's really worth it. Otherwise, I probably also go to DEF CON, so the big conference for Ethereum, more targeted at developers. So DEF CON this year is in Japan, in Osaka in October, if I'm not mistaken. So that's also a really good excuse to visit Japan. However, DEF CON is definitely more expensive. I think that last year it was something like $1,000 or something like this. So yeah, like you need to have the budget to go there. Yeah, but like, so if you can find some events like this, and also another kind of event which people don't talk a lot very often, but which is it's a shame because it's a great event. That's the hackathon of Ethereum. So that's managed by an organization that is called ETH-Global. So you can type ETH-Global and ETH-Global and see what are the different hackathons that are organized. And usually these hackathons, they're organized in a different part of the world. So hopefully there'll be a hackathon next to where you live. So you need to form a team. You need to have a project for doing a decentralized application. It doesn't matter if you're not really experienced in dApps. It's actually a good experience, a good opportunity to learn. And when you go there, the really big advantage is that you can have a really huge exposure. So at the end of the hackathon, there will be a sort of competition where judges will evaluate different projects. And if your project is interesting, then you can receive some money and you can also receive a lot of exposure. If I'm not mistaken, the famous game CryptoKitties started at the hackathon. And after that, it started to have some traction as a result of the exposure, and at some point it led to investment for venture capital. But yeah, it all started at a hackathon, and I know that there are a couple of other crypto projects that started at hackathon. So it's a good way for your project to have exposure, but also for yourself. Yeah, so I gave you like a few tips that are quite actionable, I think. Also, I show you my example how personally I find a crypto job. So yeah, I hope that you find some inspiration for yourself, and if you have any question, then ask them in the comment. Thanks for watching, and see you later. Bye.